But I'm told by people in the know that guys like you, as a prosecutor, are really shrewd and can get people into a corner. The argument against the president's supporters, even our own legal analysts have no axe to grind, are saying it would be a mistake for Donald Trump to do that because he could be setting himself up for...
Ask Martha Stewart, you know, and if it were only about the legal issues, no white-collar defense lawyer would make their client available to investigators so that investigators can make out of what the current state of the situation is a crime when none exist previously, right? You don't want to give your client an opportunity to lie under oath or to make a false statement that's subject to penalty of prosecution. On the other hand, it's not exclusively a legal judgment. There's a political aspect to this, and that is the president and the administration cannot make this investigation go away until he's shown to be someone who cooperated fully, including that he personally cooperated by making himself available.
I'm sorry. Have all our presidents in these kind of situations eventually talked to a prosecutor?
Well, I mean,
there aren't that many.
Richard Nixon didn't, and he was almost impeached as a result of it and forced to resign. But Bill Clinton...
It wouldn't have mattered in his case.
I don't think it would have mattered in his case. But Bill Clinton certainly did, and I think, you know, he survived it. And I think that's probably the best precedent here is that Donald Trump, I think, has made the calculated judgment. He'll make himself available. It may be contrary and strictly to legal advice, but he needs to do that. He'll do it in a setting where it is under oath and that there's a transcript, so there's no dispute about what the questions were and what his answers were.
What do you think Mueller would be after that? You were famous for asking very short to the point questions. In fact, you didn't speak in legalese. It was almost disarming the way you handled things. And I'm wondering if that would be the Mueller approach. Don't go on with long-winded questions that try to gotcha moments, but to trip people up unintentionally.
I think Bob Mueller has learned from experience. I certainly did. I thought, you know, when President Clinton was examined under oath in that grand jury appearance, that went on for far too long. Prosecutors spent way too much time, you know, in the weeds, and he was very good at parrying the blow.
Remember, he almost had monosyllabic answers.
Well, and I think that's a mistake. I mean, you either have it or you don't have it. I think pointed questions, resolve it, gather the facts. Look, do I think there's any chance under the sun that as a result of the president's testimony under oath that there's going to be an indictment or a charge against a sitting president? No, I do not.
But wouldn't Mueller be looking more to the point for any sign of obstruction of justice? That's what they seem to be
I think
right?
He's trying to gather information. It'll be included in a report. That report will be delivered to Rod Rosenstein, who will in turn deliver it to the Congress, and Congress will release it to the public.
I understand that, but do you think that's what they're looking for? It's very hard to pin exactly the president's direct role, if any at all, with the Russians and everything. But they might be able to prove through comments like, hey, go light on this guy or don't do this, that's the best they have. And even that might be a specious argument.
That's subject to interpretation. My view is you could never prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously that carried with it corrupt intent to violate the obstruction statutes. I don't think you're ever going to show. I don't think you would ever be able to show, even in the event, you know, once the president left office, that you decided to charge him, that constituted obstruction of justice. He has a whole host of innocent reasons to explain why he took personnel action against members of his administration. Can I ask you this?
We're waiting a couple of minutes now. The president is going to be straight from a meeting there. But I did want to get, did the politics or the environment ever influence you? Now, Bill Clinton was still a very popular president, even through all
Neil, this is a subtle distinction. You know, any prosecutor in that situation who's not mindful of the fact that your decisions are in a political environment and doesn't pay attention to the politics of it is a fool. But that doesn't mean that I made decisions based upon what the outcome would be in the political domain. You know, my job was to make a decision as a prosecutor about what was appropriate to do.
But even Ken Starr thought of that when his investigation morphed into a relationship with an intern, and the president lying about that he lost people. Whatever the merits of that he lost people there because it veered off course.
And I think it veered off course because once you travel out of your appropriate role.
But that's what happens, right?
Well, it can happen. You got to be very careful about.
How did you avoid that?
You got to be careful about making statements like, well, I think lying to the American people is something that warrants, you know, investigation or consideration by Congress.
That sounds crazy.
That's not your role. My role is to decide based upon a set of facts whether or not there's proof of a criminal case.
Right? If Mueller thought that would be bad.
In my judgment, that's bad and out of role. And the sort of thing like what happened to Jim Comey, when you travel out of role, you lose the confidence of the American people to accept your judgments.